Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters.
And we're going to continue our looking at the year that happened or didn't happen.
And where we were, where we're going.
Yeah.
We spent the last half hour largely talking about political matters,
Right, and that it's
candidacies and whatever.
election year. Right.
But once you're elected, you actually have to do a job.
Right.
And one of the things when I was sort of, trying to cobble some things together for today, when I was looking at things this morning, I uncovered a little list that we put together about exactly 1 year ago.
Exactly, almost,
as we were just starting off 2016, and entitled it Unfinished Business. So it was some items that were left over from 2015. Plus a few items which you sort of knew were going to be kind of issues that required city council action for 2016. And it was interesting as I was looking at it to see some things that where people, they really moved on it, and some were just absolutely forgotten. Right. And I thought it might be kind of an interesting exercise just to walk through a few.
Yeah, and let me just say that we're doing this today, and last week we did a review of what had happened, right? Because there has been no city council meetings for the last 2 weeks, right? Because
that's
of the holidays.
The next city council meeting is this coming Monday, January 9th.
Exactly. I mean, there's been some ordinance committee meetings this week.
There's one today on, was it medical marijuana?
And tomorrow
is a technical meeting. The GLBT committee wanted to change its name. So technically, since they're like some other committees, they're established by ordinance. In order to change your name, you actually have to change the
tomorrow,
ordinance.
I thought it was inclusionary zoning.
Oh, you're right. So you're right. I'm thinking a week ahead.
Okay.
Right? You're right. It's inclusionary
zoning. And also, the one today that said it was televised. I turned on my TV at home. Well, it was 20 after 4. How long are they supposed to be, those meetings?
Some of these are just pro forma. They might meet and be there for 15 minutes.
I thought it was usually an hour and a half, but anyway.
Yeah, it might have been a quickie. That's a real possibility.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's go back. So that's why we're looking at a lot of this, because it's a good time to do it when there's no current stuff.
Exactly. So anyway, let's sort of look at a list.
Yeah, here we go.
Going to lose us for a minute, walk over here. So just to set this correctly here, this was something we put together called Unfinished Business on January 5th of 2016, so 1 year ago. So these these aren't necessarily current today.
No.
But those were the things just sort of looking ahead for the coming year. And we could actually walk through some of these here.
So let's
for example, the Barrett petition, which had to do with accessory apartants.
Right.
That actually had an expiration date in the springtime. It actually passed, I think, in January.
Yeah, it was
without any amendments at all. So that was a big, and actually that's important because there are other places like the city of Newton and elsewhere who are actually now talking about enacting zoning changes pretty much the same as the Barrett petition to get more housing, more affordable housing out of existing housing stock, which is certainly one way to view it. There was a provision or a city council order calling for an affordable housing overlay. Now, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I think what it means is basically it's a zoning provision that would have been citywide that would have given certain incentives to say that you could do certain things if you build pure affordable housing or not. But it was never acted on, honestly. I think it was maybe something was sent to the Community Development Department for some sort of report. I don't know if it ever came back, or maybe the city councilors just sort of let it go away. But that it's sort of been off the table for one.
So it's not even one of these tabled issues. It just isn't there at all.
It's sort of it's like hidden away now.
All right. And now what's
there was a proposal dating back to 2015 calling for putting housing on Central Square parking lot. That's a live issue today.
Which parking? The one on Bishop Allen Drive and Prospect?
I think primarily they're talking about, the ones at Bishop Allen and Prospect are not actually owned by the city. So they were talking initially about city-owned parking lots.
Oh.
And I think at the last city council meeting in December, there were a lot of communications from people supporting doing 100% affordable housing on those lots. There have been other calls for doing something, maybe changing the zoning laws or creating other incentives for the privately owned parking lots, maybe to become a place for housing.
So the Mass and Main development, isn't that isn't that a proposal
Actually,
for one of the parking lots?
that'll be on our list. No, not really.
I thought
That's
they
actually, no, the one thing that was asked for was that whatever happens at Mass and Main, which is right across from the studios here, and that actually will commence.
But I'm talking about there's a lot on Bishop Allen Drive, though.
Right.
I thought the city owns that.
The city does still own that.
Right, so that's what they're going to build some affordable housing on, no?
That may or may not happen. I imagine it will happen.
Right.
But there's other things like a big underground water storage tank that has to happen as well.
Right. So where are these parking lots that we own that could be housing?
Primarily Bishop Allen Drive. There were at least two city.
So further down from where I'm talking
There's
about.
the one that's closer down toward Columbia Street.
Okay.
Then there's the one sort of behind the H Mart. So they're
That's
around.
so tiny.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you can configure.
Oh,
housing
you're talking about where the meters are. Yeah, but then where are you going to park and
Well, I mean, I don't know that anybody's anticipating putting in 1,000 units of housing.
No,
on
that's
these.
crazy.
The thing is that there is some push to have it be housing rather than parking. There was a study that was underway for possible changes to the inclusionary zoning requirements. That report came back. And
yes, there's a lot of action on that. Yeah.
Much of 2016 in the Housing Committee and now the Ordinance Committee.
So is that a vote tomorrow or just a committee meeting? The ordinance tomorrow?
Could do that. I imagine it may stay there for a little bit longer before going back to the council with a recommendation.
Well, that's right. It has to be voted on by the full council.
Right.
Yeah.
I listened under housing. There was this 20-plus year blight on Bishop Allen at Vale Court, and that was arguably resolved in the last couple of months.
Eminent domain.
The city took the property by eminent domain, and
it's being challenged.
It is. I think the previous property owners are still challenging how much money the city paid for it.
All right.
One other thing that the second category of my list, is really about 10 on the list, was this citywide master plan, which was something there was a lot of agitation for this starting in 2014. It led to the Envision Cambridge process. And, the question is, well, what was going to happen with that during the year 2016 and beyond? Right?
A lot of meetings. That's what's going to happen. A lot of meetings.
One thing I certainly anticipated at the time was that whenever any proposal, any zoning petition, anything came up, that you'd hear people get up at public meetings and say, well, we can't act on this now because we can't do anything until the master plan is completed. I actually have heard people say that. Even when there was a petition before the planning board a few weeks ago, people said, well, should we be deciding on this now or should we wait until the master plan is completed? And then people said, no, that's just ridiculous. The master plan process was never meant to just stop everything cold. So for the most part, other things have proceeded, even though the master plan idea is still sort of in process. I personally have not really witnessed a whole lot of combat over it. It's largely been just meetings that have been pretty cordial. The advisory committees were appointed and they tend to be pretty reasonable. I think if anything, it's fair to say that the year closed where some people on because I'm on the Envision Cambridge Advisory Committee, wanting to get a little more active, make a little more headway into this whole master plan business. All right. When the appointments were made, where there going to be a lot of hemming and hawing about who the appointees were. That certainly was the case when the K2, C2 committees were formed, where people kept claiming, oh, these people were really they're just business owners and developers and whatever. I'm sure some people harbor some negative views, but I really haven't heard a whole lot of negativity about the appointments for these various Envision Cambridge committees. It seems to be a pretty open process. As I say, the only thing I think can be said is some people wanted to move a little faster.
Right.
Fair to say.
I think they have 3 years from the time it started, right?
Yeah, I think that's at least,
be a while.
We're sort of leaving that door open for that. How much talk about transportation? Honestly, I haven't heard a whole lot yet, but maybe we will soon. Transportation is sort of a big issue generally. The Green Line extension became sort of a big
driverless cars
thing, right? Yeah, right. A lot of talk about bicycles and whatever. So that's but you don't hear most of that discussion as part of Envision Cambridge. You just hear it at city council meetings.
Exactly.
I think that's sort of fair to say.
Yeah.
The last thing I had in that category was, will there be any movement on Central Square, the C2 recommendations or some alternative?
Well, there was, right?
Well,
the restoration petition?
Yeah, now we have the Central Square restoration petition came up, and it's in process right now, which is built out of some of the C2 recommendations.
Yeah, got fairly good support.
It got a rousingly positive
Right.
review at the planning board, and it's still before the ordinance committee.
Right.
We'll see where that goes.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, one topic, which is sort of the next in the list here, I have it just listed as STEM. Some of you may remember that during the previous council, there was a lot of talk. I think it was Dennis Benzan had it as a very high priority. Nadeem Mazen did as well. It was sort of talk about science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and creating job creation and job training, especially for local kids. I'm going to just say, maybe because Dennis Benzan was not reelected, this is one area where I don't think I've heard a damn thing the whole year.
Wasn't it mentioned, though, in some of the Envision meetings?
I think that
in terms of what people were interested in.
I think the professional staff especially will bring it up, because they just see that as part of the economic picture, is to make sure that you're matching residents with jobs and what have you. But in terms of it as a city council initiative, honestly, it's just sort of gone away.
Wasn't it mentioned at that charter school? What do you call it? Not a round.
At a round table?
Round table.
That's possible, yeah.
I seem to remember that. Yeah.
All right, another category that I've mentioned here, I just loosely called it bans, ordinances, and changes in city services.
Okay.
I have sort of a sore spot with me. I sort of think we have a city council that likes to ban things.
Especially in election years, so watch out.
Yeah, so watch out. They're going to remember there were city council orders to ban large soda, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see where it go, but there was curbside organics collection is coming. I forget when the.
Well, I think that, like as I said in one of the shows, they've hired a consultant to do a zero waste kind of overview, because I think they wanted it September 17.
It's just a reminder that we're still here.
Right, but I'm not sure. That's really close when you think about it, and I don't.
Yeah.
They need more figures and more, the financial ramifications. It may not be September 17.
Yeah, it's not at all clear that the infrastructure to support
exactly, because the whole where it goes has changed and what they take. So there's a lot of issues that
you don't want to collect it if you can't process it.
Exactly.
Right. So
anyway,
that was one of them.
Okay, and then the plastic bag ban did
went into effect, and for the most part,
actually that went into effect before.
In March.
Oh no, March! You're right, absolutely,
right.
And that was pretty
that's
good.
Actually been pretty seamless, I'd say.
Well, because it's a very, it's a checkout. It's the bag that usually check out.
Yeah, you do see people walking to stores with bags in hand now, and I think it's and interestingly, when I never thought I'd see the day that Market Basket in Somerville.
Yeah, they've changed.
But it's completely changed now. They charge you 10 cents a bag.
Well, they're charging you 10 cents for a heavier plastic bag, and the real purists don't even like that.
Right.
However,
there are a lot of people who still don't bring bags. They just pay the extra dime per bag.
Right.
And they just view it as an annoyance.
But I do want to say that I kind of brought this up at the Recycling Advisory Committee. Brookline has now put in or whatever they call it there to target the produce bags that are actually within the stores.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I warned, since it's an election year, I said we got to be careful, because it might sound like a great thing to do, but that's just to be aware, you know.
Yeah, I just sort of mentioned that because I think we have a city council. The current group has at least a few figures who very much want to kind of dictate terms to everybody.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about. So just be aware of any meetings that happen in the summer around extending the plastic bag ban to other things.
I think it's fair to say that the people of Cambridge are pretty cooperative people, and if you've got good ideas, they're going to cooperate. And you don't necessarily have to sort of grab them around the throat to get them to cooperate.
I know,
People
but if it's
for the most
done when
part
there's
do it.
only a few people around and passed and it sounds good, not
I
everyone's
know,
gonna have the
I know,
information.
I know. That's more of a
Right.
message to council. Is
Okay.
like, just be kind. People
Well,
will
just
be.
do
people
your
get with the
homework is what
program.
I'd like to know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We
Right.
did the polystyrene ban went into
So far, I
effect.
haven't seen anything that went into effect just actually recently, the end of October.
I think there
I
are some
don't know
places
how-
they're still using up their old
Right.
stock. So
And there's definitely, there's
that's-
alternatives, but I
Yeah,
haven't heard much about it, tell you the truth.
yeah. So far we don't really.
Yeah.
The jury's still out. I think the
it's
the
supposedly
Public Works Commissioner did
Yeah.
extend certain exemptions, like 1-year exemptions.
Well, it
for
did
some
include
places.
straws, and I don't know how that's going over.
Yeah.
but
So
anyway.
we'll see how that
We'll see.
shakes out over time.
Okay, so what else is there? There's
The number 5 on
Mass
the list
and
here was the
Main.
Mass and Main project. Now
That actually
that
went
was
through, right?
that was a big thing.
Yeah.
The zoning was done before, and it was, I guess it was, everything was approved. Now they have building designs more or less there. It actually expanded a little bit. They actually picked up another building over on Columbia Street down at the corner. So it's more of a comprehensive project. There's a parking garage. It's a pretty ugly parking garage. It's over on Bishop Allen Drive. It's actually going to be the subject of a planning board hearing tonight to replace that with housing. So that's happening, and my understanding is that demolition and construction, you're going to start seeing it happening in earnest this coming spring.
So essentially, they have all their permits.
Yes.
And a big hangup is this water tank, right?
The city's putting in a big underground stormwater tank over under the parking lot.
But there's a problem
there.
because of the red line or
And
something?
how you
Yeah.
get it over the red line to the receiving conduit to take it down toward the river for stormwater
Is
is kind of tricky.
Yeah.
We're not quite sure how that's going to work out just yet, right? Back then in beginning of 2016, I said, would there be lawsuits to try and block things? They really, honestly,
No,
did not
I don't think so.
materialize. There's still
They
people.
did so many public meetings
A
that
lot
I
of
think
public
that it really
meetings.
helped their
Yeah,
cause.
I really think that's sort of part of the process now, and I think it's working out pretty well.
And they made some concessions with
Yeah,
height and all
no, I
that,
think
yeah.
they've been very, very cooperative. The
Okay.
Foundry building was a big
That's-
topic
yeah.
from, I think it was from March, beginning in, or even February, kind of thing, with 2014. It was definitely unsettled. Eventually, the city decided to give authority to the Cambridge Redevelopment Authority to kind of manage the process. They came forth with requests for proposals. There was one bidder to sort of manage the process was approved, or at least applied.
Oh,
And
right,
now
they did
my
a
understanding
report,
is
right.
is the latest is that everything is. I don't know if it's going back to square one.
There was a hearing on October 6th, I remember that.
Right.
And then that's when a lot of stuff came
So
out,
there's
like, we
there
don't
was
like this, we don't like that,
A
yeah.
lot of dissension among
Right.
some of the city councilors, and
Right.
so and let's be clear that the Foundry building project was part of that STEAM/STEM discussion from early on. So if that's going to see a revival, it probably has to wait to some degree to when this matter of the Foundry building gets resolved. And honestly, I have no idea how it's going to be resolved ultimately.
Yeah.
It has to be at least somewhat economically
Right, well, that's the big
self-sustaining.
stickler. It has to make some money so people compare to that one
Some of the
District 1 or whatever it's called
Yeah.
downtown.
Some of the city
And,
councilors, though, are
yeah.
talking about, well, we'll just have have
The
a
city
regular
fee, yeah.
annual
Stipend.
stipend to support it, which
And it's
honestly
not
is
gonna go
something
over big.
Robert Healy as city manager would never have
Yeah.
allowed.
We'll
But we'll see how it
Lloyd
shakes out.
Rowley thinks
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
honestly, if that's just going to become a big cash sink, that would be a problem.
So is that on the table, this?
That is
for
still
the city
in
council?
process,
Is
not
that
so
gonna
much for
be-
the city council, but for the redevelopment authority. And
So will there be a hearing about it soon?
It'll be an ongoing issue as we've had into 2017.
Okay.
The Volpe site, it was sort
That
of
has
the
sort
big
of
hot
been
potato
decided,
that
yeah.
is, I don't think anything's really been decided. What
No,
has-
MIT, I mean, that's not in there. Right.
one thing that was unknown back a year ago was who the
Right.
preferred developer would be
Right.
for the
So
site.
that's what I meant.
Eventually, the
Yeah.
federal agency settled on having an MIT
Right.
basically be
So that was the biggest thing
yeah, so
that
they're the
happened
ones
there.
who will basically be in charge
Right.
of that. Now, in principle, all
Yeah.
the zoning and all of the planning
Right.
should be taking place And now that you know who the developer is going to be,
Yeah.
it should actually be easier.
Right.
There is a Volpe advisory group was formed, I guess in the fall.
Okay.
And they're meeting. I think they may be meeting either tomorrow or certainly this week. And they have been meeting. And we'll sort of see where that goes. I think that will probably be a topic of discussion as we head into 2017. Right? Because ultimately there will have to be a zoning petition. It's inescapable. And it will probably be arriving as we're heading into the election season. So, another thing I listed here last year was the sharing economy. Back then, there was a lot of discussion about Uber, Lyft, and taxis. I haven't heard anything about that lately.
I haven't either.
But Airbnb, which was second on my list there, became a big thing.
Yeah.
And I, again, give a lot of credit to Councilor Kelly and his aide, Will, for really carrying the ball on that. And it's become a big issue in Boston, and ultimately, I imagine, being in the state, is how do you regulate these types of.
Well, yeah, I mean, Airbnb has said their end of it. Tax us, do this, and even the people that host say, yeah, do it. But you said it has to be a state thing.
Well, I think the state had an opportunity to do
right, and they never
give
did
enabling
that.
legislation, and they punted.
Right.
Now,
So-
will they take it on again? I think they probably will.
So in other words, it does have to come through the state before we can do it.
I mean,
as a city.
the way it works,
Yeah.
normally if you want to do regulation, especially when it involves taxation, you,
Right.
as a city, you do not have the right to
You don't.
tax.
So we don't call that 10 cent on the bag thing a tax then, right? Because most
it's a
people
fee.
did.
It's a fee. It's a fee.
Ah,
Right.
okay.
So what happens then is this: you could file home rule legislation with the state to to have them grant you the authority
So why haven't we done
to
that?
enact it. Because I don't think people knew what they wanted.
They want something.
They
They
want
want
something,
people to pay something into the
But
city.
unless
I thought it was clear from some of those reports, but maybe not.
I think it's still in flux, but I predict it'll be a topic that the state
Well,
legislature
yeah.
will address, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's a comment regardless.
So let's go back to now miscellaneous.
There
that
were
may
bunches
happen
of
or- okay.
things that were, some of which were election related, like public, there
Right.
was a proposal that
Yep.
a year ago, it was in the oven about publicly funded municipal elections. That there was a committee meeting. It honestly seems to be going nowhere.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was so half baked that maybe that's what should happen, is have it go nowhere. Voting rights for non-citizens in local elections. Actually, there was a home rule petition passed kind of quickly without discussion by the city council, so I believe
Oh, and that goes
it's
to
actually
the.
before the legislature right now. It
really?
probably will
Wow.
get shot down,
Right.
but who knows?
So it did go through. Okay.
Honestly, that's the type of initiative that shouldn't happen just in single towns. That's something that should be either going to do it more
Yeah.
generally or not.
Yep. Yep.
There were proposals for changes in residential exemptions to have them be sort of income based. I didn't think that was ever going to go anywhere, and that's just completely vanished. And I think that's how it had to be. We saw on the national level a call for $15 minimum wage.
Right.
The state minimum wage just went up to $11 an hour
Right,
as
exactly.
of January
Right,
1st, which I
right.
believe somebody on the news said
Right.
is the highest in the country for state minimum wage law
For
now.
a state minimum wage law.
Yeah, there are
Not
some.
a city. You're
I
right.
think
Because Seattle and places have a $15.
there are some
right.
places, maybe it's San Francisco, Seattle, have the authority to enact
they've actually done it,
a
yeah.
citywide minimum wage. We do not have that authority.
Right. But as a
in
state, we're the
Massachusetts.
only state that have $11.
To have that high, and
for us.
it'll incrementally go
Right.
up in some success.
I mean, New York has this plan that goes to 2020 when it gets to be
Yep.
15 or 2025. It's really way out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a proposal for
Recognize.
to have. Well, there was one proposal that was sort of, I don't think that was ever going to go anywhere, which is to have, when you have ordinance committee meetings, to say if
Yeah.
you were an organized group, you would somehow have like a special status.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous idea, and it never went anywhere. There was actually also, I might as well mention, early
Yeah.
in 2016, what came up was a proposal that a non-citizen representative be made a permanent non-voting city council seat.
That I never saw.
and
I missed that one.
Well, and honestly,
Is that a policy order?
that was a policy order,
Really?
and it never went anywhere, nor should
I
it.
missed that one.
But but these are what
Yeah.
did happen.
Right.
And there was certainly a proposal pursuant to the legislation from the state to actually utilize
early voting.
all the maximum 11 full days of early voting in the November election. In fact, that happened. In fact, it happened pretty much completely. And it was an enormous number of people actually came out and did it. So whether that'll be repeated in future elections, who can say? But that's only for state elections and federal elections, not municipal elections.
But we could do that as a city without having state approval?
It wouldn't shock me at all if there was a call to do that at the city level for this coming year.
No, I meant that we could do that. We proposed that even though we didn't need the state approval of that.
I don't know if you do or don't, actually.
Because I know the state did have early voting. I mean, I saw.
Oh no, that was enabled by the state, but I was talking about for municipal elections.
Oh no, all right, I wasn't talking.
So that might be another initiative that may come.
Okay.
There's for what's going to happen when all this new development happens in Union Square, caused by the the Green Line extension. Well, nothing's happened. I mean, they cleared a lot of land, so we'll see what happens. But anybody who goes down Prospect Street heading into Union Square knows it's now a vast wasteland. I wrote down it will hurt.
Current housing speculation bubble? No.
Hasn't burst yet.
Nope, sorry.
And in fact, more and more people are acknowledging, and it's not just in Cambridge, that the effect of foreign investment in local housing markets is a very, very significant factor.
Built up,
Right?
Yep. No, it's become definitely a have and have not. I have to say.
I listed civic unity at the very last there about race and class issues. I think this coming spring, Denise Simmons will have some hearings about this, but that has sort of taken more of a kind of a contentious turn. I think with the Black Lives Matter Cambridge group, whatever. So it's not necessarily about unity, but it's certainly an issue. We'll see how that plays out in the municipal election too. I imagine they may have a group
There's some
of
things
candidates
coming
as
up.
well.
I can't think of it offhand, but if you go to, I saw on the city website some meetings, or maybe just Martin Luther King Day, they're having something.
That's right. That's coming. Martin Luther King Day, is that next Monday or the following Monday? I forget now. It's 2 Mondays from now, maybe. And there's always this big event that happens around the
there's
city.
that, but there's also something else happening at the library. Anyway, so look it up on his calendar.
We will be back next week on Cambridge Inside Out.
Good night.